All right, I'm going to move off screen and go ahead and get the breathing done. This morning, good morning. We're going to do 3 deep cleansing breaths before we get started to ensure that we are regulating our emotional regulation system, our nervous system located in the limbic system and the temporal lobe of the brain. On your own, you're going to go ahead and inhale and exhale 3 deep breaths just to quiet the mind, to let it know we're getting ready to learn and use it this morning. Starting now, 3 deep breaths. And I will slide back in the shot. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is me, Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers, Dr. Donna Louise Thomas-Rodgers, daughter of Leslie Thomas, granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, and great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Welcome to your morning mental workout. We are on day 631, consecutive days for me going live. Today's topic is the principle of real leadership, empower others, and it's number 22 of a list of 74. Now, the quote that I have in my book, I've updated based upon having new information. And the quote now is, when you become empowered, you become empowering. When you become empowered, you become empowering. This is a mental workout. Your brain is 75% water, according to Dr. Dean, a neurologist that I follow on TikTok. So make sure that you have some water with you. Hydration is important. You slept all night, and believe it or not, even though all you were doing was sleeping, you literally were dehydrating. And if you have been up, you're across the pond, you're watching this on the replay, you have been moving and busy all day, and you need to ensure that you are hydrated. When you say, I am thirsty, you are saying you're already at 2% dehydration. So let's go ahead and get into it this morning. To empower, what regions of the brain and the hemispheres are used to empower people? And so to empower people, there are several brain regions across both hemispheres that are involved. And empowering others requires a combination of emotional intelligence, social connection, strategic thinking, communication, and empathy. Now, before I get into this, I want to ensure that we are aligned on empowering others. Telling other people what to do because you are bossy does not mean that you are empowering them. Using fear to motivate people to do something doesn't mean that you are empowering them. Empowering them, you will find as we go through this, means you're giving them the ability to do something that they were not able to do on their own, or you're giving them the skill set and the information that they need to go off and do grand things themselves. So this is not about, I own you, I'm the boss of you, I'm going to tell you what to do, and then you're going to do it, or through manipulation and control. That's not what empowerment is. So here are the brain regions for involved in empowering others. Number 1 is the prefrontal cortex, and its function is in decision making, planning, self-regulation, and ethical thinking. And the hemispheres that are involved for the prefrontal cortex are both. It's slightly more left dominant because of the verbal strategies. Next is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and this function is for strategic thinking, setting goals for others, and mental flexibility. And we know that cognitive flexibility is part of the executive function of the brain, which is located in the frontal lobe. And it's both hemispheres as well. Next is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and it's for compassion, value-based decisions, and social empowerment, and it is both hemispheres as well. I'd like to just stop for a moment and say value-based decisions. I always say don't do anything without a why and a strategy, because that allows you to make decisions that are based upon your values, your core values, your no debates, as we use that term when I worked at Frito-Lay. When you are holding yourself personally accountable and you're learning how to use your brain in its totality, the full functionality of the brain, you actually make value-based decisions because the prefrontal cortex is in charge. When you don't make value-based decisions, you are allowing right here in the temporal lobe, in the limbic system, the amygdala, right and left, both together. Sometimes it's just right dominated, sometimes it's left dominated, depending on if you're acting or saying something. You don't make value-based decisions. And that's why you actually need to stay in your frontal lobe inside of your executive function, because you also have inhibition control, which is located in executive function. And that stops you from doing and saying things that you'll later regret. Going forward and growing forward, your decisions must be value-based decisions. I'm making this decision because it aligns with my values. I'm making this decision because that doesn't align with my values. And that will require you to use both of the hemispheres. The next is the anterior cingulate cortex, and this is for conflict resolution, empathy, motivation, I say empowerment to support others. Now, conflict resolution, when you're dealing with conflict, handle conflict when it occurs is one of the 74 principles of leadership. Most unaccountable people don't like dealing. Good morning, Dr. Strange. Most people don't like dealing with conflict because it creates a hijacked amygdala state. Cortisol shows up, clouds the frontal lobe, and the next thing you know, you're running away from conflict. No, but when you have your prefrontal cortex, it's strong. It can handle the conflict, because what you want to do is minimize the conflict, handle it when it's occurring. So it might be a little match. You don't want to turn it into a 15 alarm fire. Okay, next is the temporal parietal junction, the TPJ. The function is perspective taking, seeing things from others' point of view. We talked about this yesterday as well, and this is mostly right hemisphere functionality. And the reason why you want to see things from other people's perspective is because of cognitive dissonance, conformity bias, confirmation bias, and then the brain is hardwired for negativity bias. So as a result of that, and if you have a hijacked amygdala, you are seeking safety and comfort. So you are singing the me song. So you want to be able to see it from someone else's perspective, because that allows you to embrace diversity, which is one of the 74 principles of leadership as well. Next, we have our amazing friend, the amygdala. And this is where the emotional processing and attunement to others' emotions. So if you are allowing your prefrontal cortex to do its job, then you can actually understand and have empathy and be in tune to other people's emotions. We talked about it yesterday. The right amygdala is looking at what's happening, and then the left amygdala is listening to what's taking place. So both hemispheres are activated, and it's emotionally intense, and empowerment may activate the right amygdala more. So if the situation becomes scary for you, then the right amygdala is going to defend itself. And so you want to ensure that the prefrontal cortex is in charge, so the little bitty almond-shaped amygdala is not running the show. I eat almonds and walnuts every day. That's why I always have one on my desk. So think about how big your brain is. Your brain weighs almost up to 3 pounds, and now you have this little bitty amygdala brain tissue that's grams running the show, and that's not its job. So you don't want it doing a job that it is not designed to do. Next is the insula, and this function of the insula is emotional awareness, gut intuition, and empathetic response. Now, resonance. Now, remember, the gut brain is sending 400 messages to the head brain. You have 3 brains: the head brain, heart brain, and the gut brain. And so you want to listen to your gut. How many times have you not listened to your gut and been in a precarious situation? And you say, something told me. The gut told you. The gut's like, yeah, I told you. Don't do that. Don't eat that. Don't say that. You did it anyway. And in this regards, it's both hemispheres that are being used to empower others. Next, we have 2 new regions of the brain that we will have exposure to today. The mirror neuron system, and it's in the inferior frontal gyrus and the parietal lobe. And so what this does is it's understanding others' actions and feelings and social learning. There's a lot of research out there regarding mirror neurons. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background for it. A mirror neuron is a network of neurons that fire both when an individual performs an action or when they observe someone else performing the same action or similar actions. And so that's why people using NLP, neuro linguistics, I always forget the P, but if I yawn, then you'll yawn too. If I pick up a bottle, you resonate with me picking up a bottle because you have a frame of reference for that. So it plays a role in understanding actions, intentions, and emotions of others, potentially facilitating social cognition imitation and empathy. And so because I used to be a stand-up comic, I can't imitate a lot of people and their voices, and it is because of the neuron system that I am able to do that. And I do well at imitating not famous people. So I can watch you, pay attention to you, and then next thing you know, I am imitating your actions and your behaviors. And so again, it's for both hemispheres, but it's more right dominant when you're with respect to empathy. And then finally, you have the posterior superior temporal sulcus, the PSTS, and this is also a new introduction today. And its role is in processing socially relevant information, including biological motion, dynamic facial expressions, and gaze direction. We talked about the gaze direction yesterday with the right amygdala as well, taking in that information. And it also is involved in auditory processing, particularly human voices, and plays a role in integrating visual and auditory information. Now, in addition to these 9 regions, here is a hemisphere overview. So the left hemisphere is the verbal encouragement, the logical explanation, the goal setting, the planning, empowering strategies. And then the right hemisphere is for emotional support, empathy, nonverbal communication, and inspirational connections. And so what I'd like to say at this point is this. What's happening with the right hemisphere when we're talking about empathy and nonverbal communication? You can empower someone to do something and it could go left for that person for reasons outside of their control. And it is at that point that you have to have empathy and understand that this was maybe catastrophic for this person. And so that's where that comes into play. You're watching them go, oh my goodness, why is this happening? This is terrible. I thought this strategy worked. I want to be able to do this, but I lack this skill set that I need. I found myself having empathy for my daughter as she's been building her business for the last 4.5 years. Because when you start to do something outside of your comfort cocoon, your amygdalas are going to be like, we're not doing that. What you doing? No. And there were so many micro skills that my daughter needed to develop in order to be the elite business owner that she is today. And so I was there with her at the majority. I've probably been to 97% of her appointments, empowering her, sometimes with a hug and sometimes with a swift kick, all with the whole intended purpose of supporting her becoming her best, which is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. So just because you are empowering someone doesn't mean that you're going to cheer them on in the wrong direction. It doesn't mean that you're not going to hold them accountable to be their best and handle conflict when it occurs. We've had many days where there has been conflict in her business and we've had to handle that. So this isn't about being nice to people. That's not what this is. This is about giving people what they need to succeed. And sometimes it's painful to do that because you have to tell people. When I was in Toastmasters, that speech was not so good. It was no braino. I have that on my desk as a thing I'm going to start saying. So you have to be honest because that's one of the 74 principles of real leadership as well. And in doing that, the objective is to empower people to become their best. So in summary, empowering people is a whole brain activity requiring the executive function from the prefrontal cortex, empathy from the limbic system and temporal regions, and perspective taking from the right hemisphere structures like temporal parietal junction, as well as the PSTS as well. So what questions do you have about, and that's the posterior superior temporal sulcus. What questions do you have about the 9 regions in the hemisphere involved before I go to the other side, which is why people avoid empowering others? What brain regions are those? If it's clear, let me know, and I will continue to move forward. And that is still, good morning, Lola. That is still hot. So now my tongue is thinking a little bit too hot on the coffee this morning. Okay. And empowering is not motivation. Motivation, as I've said often, wears off. And it's no real skill set. You can do it. I know you can do it. Look at you. Go ahead with your bad self. Yes, you can do it. You can do it. Empowering others is very strategic. And as you can see, it involves many different regions of the brain to make it happen. Okay. So what brain and hemisphere involvement are impacted when people avoid empowering others? When people avoid empowering others, several key brain regions and hemispheric dynamics are under deactivated. misregulated, and negatively biased. So here we go. In the prefrontal cortex, you have reduced ethical reasoning and weak long-term planning and lack of inclusive thinking. I'm going to say that again. Reasoning is just ethical reasoning is reduced. Weak long-term planning. You're not going to plan long-term at all. And you have a lack of inclusive thinking. You're not going to embrace diversity. You're not going to see it from the other person's perspective. None of that is going to take place. And with both hemispheres, with the left being more underused for verbal encouragement. So the last thing you're going to do is tell someone, I believe in you. Even though one of the 74 principles of real leadership is believe in yourself, you're not going to tell someone, oh, people used to, before I had a criterion, would email me. I would tell them exactly what they need to do. Here's how you need to do it. Tell them yes, let me know, call me back if you have any questions. And now they call it gatekeeping information. I don't gatekeep information, because if you don't know how your brain functions, you're not going to be able to use anything I'm saying anyway. So it's not a matter of gatekeeping. I'm giving you the information to wire your neural pathways for you to use the information to become successful. But it's not inclusive thinking. So when my daughter first started her business, I would say, well, you have to think about the customer. You have to think about their cultural differences, their backgrounds, their furniture. You can't just put a drill on somebody's dresser. You can't just put wood pieces or particle board together on flooring, because it's going to scratch it up. And so it's really thinking about the total inclusive experience for her customers from the time they make contact until the time the appointment is completed and the invoice is submitted. So you have to be able to do that if you're going to empower others. And when you don't, none of that long-term planning is taking place. Next is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And so what happens is, when you're avoiding empowering others, you have decreased empathy, lower pro-social empowerment, and poor emotional reasoning. And both hemispheres are going to be impacted by that. We know that when your prefrontal cortex is strong, then you have regulated emotions. When your prefrontal cortex is weak, then you have high deregulated emotions, and you start acting like a damn fool. And that's why you can't empower nobody, because you can't empower your damn self. Next is your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And so because of avoiding empowering others, there's going to be less cognitive flexibility. That means that you are not going to adapt to situations. You have a fixed mindset. You can be like, this is the way it is. This is how I'm doing. I don't care. I'm not doing anything else for you. This is it. Figure it out. My mother used to say, sounds like a personal problem to me. Okay. You're going to have increased self-focused and difficulty with strategic support for others. I'm going to say that again. Less cognitive flexibility. So that means you're not in your executive function where cognitive flexibility resides. And then you're going to be self-focused. And where do you self-focus at? Right here in the amygdala and the temporal. So you're supposed to be over here, and you over here think about me, myself, and I, and not in your default mode network, in your emotional network, which is the limbic system located in the temporal lobe. And then you're going to have difficulty with strategic support for others. When you have a hijacked amygdala, you are thinking self-preservation. You are like, where can I seek comfort and safety from this? So you cannot think about anybody else's safety or information or anything else, because you are focused on you. Next is the anterior cingulate cortex. And then for both hemispheres, you are literally suppressing both hemispheres. Next is the anterior cingulate cortex, and it's reduced error detection and conflict resolution in social situations. So because you are focused on you, you are causing problems instead of trying to create them. You are not thinking, what is the best way to empower everybody in this situation? Let's say there's some family conflict in your home, and instead of sitting down at some type of table, family room, den area to see what's happening, to resolve it for everybody in the household, you're like, I don't care. I got mine. Y'all figure it out. So that's what's taking place. Both hemispheres are impacted. The temporal parietal junction, and that's the next one, is impaired perspective taking. And then you have a low capacity for seeing others' potentials. So I've seen this before when I used to work with, and this is the right hemisphere suppression. I've seen this before when working with business owners. I used to be a strategic advisor for them, and I would go to their business locations, assess them, assess their staff, and then I would come back and report to the owner, here's what's taking place. And every time it was time for the owner to do something, they were like, that's their problem. And I don't have time. And I'm like, well, this is why your business is failing. You decided to hire them. This is your business. You're not profitable, and there's conflict in the workplace. And I'm telling you what's going on, and you're not ready to do those things that need to be done. Now that I know more about the brain, I understand that because I was giving them feedback and they were living in a hijacked amygdala state, they were fighting me because they couldn't hear what I was saying because the amygdala was running the show instead of the prefrontal cortex. But for me, it came across as ego-based and unselfish. It was selfish leadership instead of selfless leadership. But now I understand that's what was actually taking place for them. So they couldn't empower their employees because they themselves were not empowered and were living in a hijacked amygdala state. Next is the actual amygdala. And the amygdala can become hyperactive due to fear of losing control, threat perception, or insecurity. And we talked about hyperactivity yesterday. And good morning, Jessica. So this is what's happening. Your amygdala is afraid to help and empower others because you think they're going to take your spot. So when I was helping the Urban Chamber as the strategic advisor for 2 years, people warned the president of the Urban Chamber that I wanted to take his job. And I blatantly looked him in the face and I said, you make $60,000 a year. There's nothing that I've already done this. And this is not enough money to do what you do. So your job is safe. I do not want another job. I quit a better job. So I'm definitely not trying to take your job. But people kept telling him, watch out for her, watch out for her. She's trying to take your job. And I wanted to empower them because I keep my word. And as a result, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That was what I was doing. And I was empowering everybody else, but it didn't come across that way. So when you have your amygdala is hijacked, you're not going to empower people because you're going to be insecure and you think people are going to pass you. And what I've said before is the road ahead, as Bill Gates said, I think the book was written in 1995. And what he was saying in that book is that if someone passes you, you are ahead of someone. And if they pass you, you slow down. I quit a better job as a flame. Okay. If they pass you, you slowed down or you stopped and you deserve to be passed. I tell my daughter all the time, I'm 29 and a half years ahead of you. You should never pass me. Now, does she have different information than me? Yes. But I am constantly 2 levels up because I am blazing a trail so that when she gets to my age, she knows what to do. I am the blueprint. So if you believe that you can empower people because they're going to pass you, they should pass you because you ain't shit. So you deserve to be passed. There's no reason. I have been here 18,600 and something days, way more time than my daughter. She can't pass me. And that is the problem that's why I have no problem. That's why I got 11,700 YouTube videos and 15,000 posts on Instagram. Y'all not going to pass me. You would have had to wake up early one morning in 1952 to pass me. So it's not going to happen because of what I do on a daily basis. And that's why I have no issue empowering you because I'm empowering myself at 2 times the level. They say 10x your goals and everything else. Yeah. I'm going to use my 860 trillion synaptic connections. So don't gatekeep information because you're scared somebody's going to pass you. You have the neurological ability to keep growing and going up here. Okay. Neuroplasticity is a real thing. Next is the insula. And so it reduces emotional resonance and self-awareness of impact on others. So because you are stuck in a rut and you can't get your butt out your comfort cocoon, you don't have the ability to actually use your default mode network time and personal time that you have for growth and development. So when you're by yourself, you are complaining and comparing and competing, and then you have all this mind wandering and this daydreaming taking place. And so you don't have the ability to actually resonate with other people. So it's not a good thing to avoid empowering others. Next is the mirror neuron system, which I just alluded to previously earlier in the live, and weak activation. And so it's leading to limited social imitation, encouragement, or role modeling. Because you are not empowering others, you can't be empowering. And so what happens is older people get old and they sit at home and then they want to know why nobody want to come talk to them and visit them because they are not empowering. See, in my day, and see, y'all don't know how to do nothing no more. We had to walk to school uphill, and it's this old, rhetoric and you're not getting it with the times. You're not here with the times. The objective now that I'm 52 years old is to take everything that you learned in every decade and stay present in your current decade. So I was in urgent care a couple months ago last fall. I had a sinus infection and I was sitting next to an older woman and she was in her 80s and they gave her an iPad to register and she was having trouble. So I helped her and she was like, oh my God, the technology, and she felt bad. And I said, you 82. You know stuff we don't know because you was here before us. Don't feel bad about this technology. You got you had 30, you got me by 30 years. So you definitely have more information than me. So when you are being a role model, I am a role model for my daughter. Charles Barkley said back in the day he wasn't a role model. That's some shit for your parents to do. And if you're parents, you need to be a role model because I am 29 years ahead of her. And so I'm her mirror. She's looking at me, seeing what it is that she needs to be doing at 52. And when you actually are empowering to yourself and to others, now people have role models. We don't really have role models right now. And I've said this on previous lives. I don't have women in their 70s that are role models right now. Back in the day, we had way more. We had Lena Horne. We had a bunch of people. You know what I'm saying? Angela Davis and Gloria Steinem, and then we can kind of, they're still here, but we can't really see them. I don't have it. I don't have it. I'm not looking like, 72. And what? We got 70-something-year-olds saying grandma instead of grandma, but they're not doing anything that I'm inspired to look at. They're not empowering me. And so now I can't even look forward 20 years. I used to be able to say, oh, when I get to that point, but that's not happening. It's not happening. They don't have new information. They're not growing. They're not developing. They're doing something, but it's not empowering me to want to imitate anything that they're doing at all. They are definitely not empowering others in a positive trajectory. And then finally, the posterior superior temporal sulcus, it's blunted social cue detection, and it reduces the ability to interpret others' intentions or growth potential. So because you aren't empowering yourself, you can't see empowerment. And so you can't and I don't quote Les Brown often, but I see greatness in you. I am always telling people what they can do. At appointments with my daughter, they tell me they're doing something and I'm speaking other stuff into existence that they're like, "Ooh, wait, hold up. Wait a minute, Doc, D, what's happening here? What's going on? What you mean?" I'm like, "No, this is how you can do it." Most of the time it's because I've already done it, or I have the technical aptitude to say, this is how this can be done. I will search something real quick and say, here, this is what you need to be able to get that thing done that you need to get done. Now, it's up to them to connect those neural pathways to make it a reality. But I do have the ability, because of my diverse background, to be able to tell people, here is how you can take that next step. And it's the best way because I don't do shit half-assed. So it's not this mediocre, mundane, average, regular way of getting things done. It's pristine, world-class, award-winning information that will get you to your next level. So the hemisphere summary for why people avoid empowering others. In the right hemisphere, it's often suppressed in social emotional awareness, empathy, and perspective taking. You can't take perspective of somebody else if you can't even take it of your own self. And in left hemisphere, it may remain over-focused on logic, control, or self-advancement at the expense of empowering others. If you are stepping over people, creating obstacles behind you, like think about a chase scene in a movie, and now you're throwing things down and pushing things down to further your own advancement, then it's not going to work out for you. When Hillary was running, I was on a glass breakers panel here with it's a big to do. Anyway, I was sitting at the table. Everybody else was big cheeses. People knew who they were. They didn't necessarily know who I was back then in 2016. And they said their thing. And then it was a facilitator. And I said this statement here. I said, the problem with women is that you gain access. You get a door opened or open a door, and then you close it behind you. You close it behind you. So you're the only one in the room. So if it's going to be, they need a woman to be at parity, they need a woman for DEI or what is this, affirmative action or whatever, you're going to be the only one in the room. I've seen it a million times. Now I'm trying to find the door. I find the door. I open the door. I invite 15 people in, introduce them, start telling people this person could do this. This person could do this. This person could do this. This person could do that. empowering people. The person that's running the urban chamber now used to be the executive assistant, and now she is running it because I made her the president of the Toastmasters Club, and then people could finally see her as a leader and empowered her to be a leader, knowing that I was not going to remain there, but she's running it now. That's empowerment. And most people can't do that because you're afraid of what you're going to look like. But when you master something and you're the best at it, you move on to go be the best at something else. We have crowded industries where you get baby boomers, X's, and millennials all competing in this small space because they're too chicken shit to leave and go master something else so that they can empower somebody else to take over. So there is no succession planning. None of that is taking place because people that are living with hijacked amygdalas cannot use their prefrontal cortex. And that's why we have a bunch of lackluster ass shit in the world right now because of a lack of empowerment, because of a lack of neural connectivity for empowering others. Next is behavioral pattern seeing. So what you'll see is micromanagement or controlling behavior because people are not empowering others. So anybody that works in an organization where there is micromanaging or controlling behavior, whether you're in a relationship personally or professionally, that person is not empowering you, which is why I detached from my immediate family. Low empathy or connection. They don't have empathy for your situation. They're not understanding what's taking place for you and why it's difficult for you to get to your next level. Fear of being overshadowed. Fear of being overshadowed. I don't care. When I am finished with something, I do not care if you excel to a higher level than I did when I was doing it. If I'm the one who gave you the strategy, my expectation is that you do go to a higher level because I figured it out. So now you don't have to figure it out, giving you standing on my shoulders. So go ahead and reach that higher level. Next is difficulty celebrating others' success. And I see this in parents all the time. Difficulty celebrating others' success. Here's what I will say. Someone on Threads a couple days ago said, do you ever think that AI will be able to do your family tree? And people said no, because that information is private. It's going to be years from now. And AI can only scour what's on the internet. So I think it was yesterday that I literally asked Chat to do my family tree. And Chat came back and said, we have no information available. There is no connection to any of Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers' family members. That means there is not a photo out there that I've published. There is nothing at all. And there is a reason for that. Nola was mad at me because I wouldn't mention her on lives. I wouldn't show pictures of her or anything else. And I said, this is for your safety, because somebody come messing with you, I'm going to make Liam Neeson look like Winnie the Pooh. So... And then she's like, no, I'm grown. I said, okay, cool. So that's why she's participating in the lives and everything. But when we are at appointments, she is in charge. When she has an accolade or something that's taking place for her, we talked about this yesterday. She has 2 different presidential awards that she received in the 5th grade and in the 8th grade, one from President Obama, one from President Trump in his first term. She also has a letter from our governor, our sitting governor at the time. These are her accolades. At no point am I on space like, and look at my daughter, and look at this, and look at that. The only thing that I did act a fool at was at her 5th grade completion ceremony. She was the first person in the school to finish the Great American Challenge in 3 weeks. And so when they gave her a plaque, because how fast she finished it, I did yell from the audience, that's my child. Because, yeah, but that's about it. But it still didn't make it to Facebook. So her honors diploma and all these other things, for a short period of time, I did put her graduation stuff on Facebook, deleted it. All of that is gone because those are not my accolades. I'm not going to have Dr. Donna being a shadow over Nola and now she can't shine because I'm casting a shadow. But most parents take complete credit. That's my child. I did that and I did this, and then they push them out the way. Even if they do nepotism, they still letting them know it's because of me. It's because of me. And that's not helping. You're not empowering the children by doing that. You're taking away everything that you, in theory, worked hard to give them. So if you are doing that, stop that shit. Celebrate their success and don't overshadow it because of your own insecurities. You need to be able to step aside because you're working. And most of the time, parents do it because they're not working on nothing else. So now it's like, well, this is what my kids do. I'm the shit still because my kids is doing shit. No, I'm still doing big shit too. I'm still doing grand things because I am paving that way for my child. And then focused on hierarchy or personal status. I am the matriarch of the family, and no, you will not be able to pass me. That is not how it works. If you are empowering and you are leaving a real legacy, that means you leave skills, technical expertise, and everything else. You don't just leave a living trust. And I left money. And now that's what happens. It goes from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations because you did not empower those people, whether it's in business or personally. What questions do you have about the reasons why people avoid empowering others before, or comments, before I move on to the brain-based activities to actually empower others? And if it's clear, let me know. Let me know. My amazing offspring has said no questions. I'm hungry and I'm not getting anything to eat this morning. My brain is starving. Okay, as soon as I finish this almond, I will proceed. You have time to breathe. Drink some water if you haven't done so. Okay. Here are brain-based activities grounded in neuroscience to strengthen your brain's ability to empower others. Good morning, Regina. And I responded to your email about the number of adults. You were correct, and I was incorrect. Okay. By activating and training key cognitive, emotional, and social regions. So here are the brain-based activities. You want to practice active listening, and we know that listening is 2 of the 74 principles of real leadership. So no interrupting. Full, okay, you're getting on the road. Safe travels. No interrupting. Full attention. And that's active listening. You're not like, but, because then you turn it into a debate. And what you're going to be using is the temporal parietal junction, the prefrontal cortex, and the ACC. Now, this builds empathy, respect, and connection through perspective taking. You are allowing the person to speak, and you are understanding what is taking place for them. Next is daily gratitude for others' strength. So I tell my daughter all the time, she used to blame her ADHD on everything. And I start saying, listen, if you did not have ADHD, none of this shit wouldn't be getting put together. So if you're going to blame ADHD, you got to start giving ADHD credit. Because of my ADHD, I can put together this complicated ass desk in Chinese with the wrong hardware. So give it just as much credit as you give blame, because that's what's making it possible for you to have this business and everything that you're doing. So you want to look at other strengths. There are many times we leave an appointment and I'm like, yeah, you did that, fist bump, because less than she would like, but I got a high standard for her. Anyway, the point is explaining to her that I could never do that. There's no way that I would ever be able to do those things, because that's not what I am wired to do. And when you're doing that, you're using the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, the insula, and the amygdala. And what happens is, how it strengthens empowerment is it shifts attention toward value-based emotional acknowledgement of others. If you find yourself not being able to identify other people's strength, something is wrong with you. And part of it is probably because I had NCOs when I was 23 years old, and I had to write their NCOERs. So since my early 20s, I have had to evaluate people and look at their strengths and their opportunities, one-with-ones at Frito-Lay, me assessing business owners. So I'm now just wired to be able to say, and then with Toastmasters, you have the positive, negative, positive. Here's what you did positive. Here's what needs improvement. And then here's something else that you did positive. It's called the sandwich effect. So I just had to do that. Been doing this for damn near 40 years now, of being able to identify people's strength and say it. And it doesn't make me weak because I'm telling you how strong you are. Only a person with a big ass ego, low confidence, and low self-esteem. Oh, wait, a loser would do some stupid shit like that. Now, the next thing is to teach or mentor someone. And that's what I'm doing with my daughter currently, and you all as well, teaching you, mentoring her. And so what happens is you're going to use your mirror neuron system, basically tell me, show me, let me. And right now we are in the show me portion of this. And then after we finish this round, I'm going to let you. And so that allows you to see it, see the brain, see what I'm saying, so then you can mirror it, not be like me, but the behaviors associated with the 74 principles of real leadership. You're also using a dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and a prefrontal cortex. And what this does, is this reinforces knowledge sharing, compassion, and leadership thinking. I don't want fandom over here, idolization or false idling. Okay, that goes against everything that I believe in. I am not somebody for you to be worshiping. You give that to a higher power, the universe, or somebody else, but don't come worshiping me over here because I will reject it. That's not what this is. My book, Real Leaders Wear Pink, says it's everyday leadership for everyday life. That means that everybody is a leader. You are the CEO of Me Incorporated, if nothing else. And when you are mentoring someone, you are empowering them to become a leader, not a follower. You can follow because following is one of the 74 principles of real leadership as well. But in order to be a great leader, you need to be a follower first. And that's what helps you become a better leader. When we are doing work with my daughter, I'm following her and she's leading. When we're doing brain work, she's following me and I'm leading. And that's how it needs to be. And that's how everybody remains at the same level. And that's grand. Next is perspective taking exercises. And so what would I do in their shoes? And what brain regions this impacts is the TPJ, the PSTS, and the right hemisphere. And so what happens is that it boosts social cognition and empowers you to advocate for others. If you find yourself having never, ever, 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 ever in your life advocated for someone else, you are wrong. You came here to help others, which is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. So if you can't advocate for somebody else, you need to check your amygdala and your brain wiring. You need to advocate for others. And it's not, oh my God, and don't misconstrue me, because if it's, I'm advocating for the homeless, no, advocate for somebody to be a bad motherfucker. Okay, I'm tired of this poverty pimp charity shit. And yes, and I put backpacks for school. No, I literally put the the operations manager and the executive assistant, who's the business operation manager has moved on, and the executive assistant is running it at the urban chamber. I kept sending the board of the chamber information about them. They won Toastmasters awards. They were in district contests, and every time they won something, I sent the email to the whole entire board to let them know how well they were doing. And they were in district leadership and Toastmasters as well. Here, this person, and then they start to be able to see them as something bigger than that. So that is what happens when you start empowering other people. They get to their next level. And so if you haven't advocated for someone else to be grand, check yourself. Now, next, encourage others out loud. So sincere praise and reinforcement, reward openly, is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And when you're doing this, you're going to be using your left prefrontal cortex, your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and your ACC. And what this does is this activates verbal centers and social reward circuitry for empowerment. And we know that in the nucleus accumbens, that's where that dopamine release is coming from. So you want to say it loud and say it proud. You want to, at the end of Toastmaster meetings, people won table topics. They would get awards when they got their educational awards. We made a big deal about it. You want to encourage that because that empowers people. They get that dopamine boost, natural, not manufactured, and they know that they can do it again and again. Once you become best and empowered in one area of your life, that circuitry, that neural pathway is there. And now you say, if I did it over here, how can I apply it over here? How can I apply it over here? How can I apply it over here? And then how can I start paying it forward and empowering others? Now, compassion, meditation, and this is loving kindness. And where this is going to happen at is in the amygdala. You have to calm down and regulate your emotional centers if you are going to do anything grand for anybody else, to include yourself. And where this takes place outside of the amygdala is in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the insula. And it regulates emotions and it grows empathy and empowerment to uplift others. People spend all day on social media and in person making people feel bad and deflated. And then every now and then they'll inspire you a little bit, but not a lot of it. Once you get too high and mighty, we got to keep you down. And here's what I said this, I think, last week, and I will say it again. Start to pay attention to people in their retinues. And everybody in their retinues, y'all need to look like the Avengers out there, superheroes. You're just sitting up here. Everybody has their own unique talent and they're all extraordinary. But what you will see is the alpha in the group is the shit. Somebody else might be a little bit, and then everybody else is all right. And that is the issue. That is the problem, is that you are not empowering people to go and grow. And then if you read the book, The 1 Minute Manager, it will tell you that they sent the people to the 1 Minute Manager. He would empower people, and then they would go off and have their own business unit that they would run. And that's how life should be, that you are creating experts and people that have this just profound energy to be extraordinary. So if they leave, that's okay. That's wonderful. You did your part. But if you want to keep them, keep your foot on their neck, as they say, just to make sure that they stay humble, that's absurd. Don't do that. Next is daily empowerment, reflection, and writing. And in this instance, it's not about you. You're going to say, who did I help today and how? Who did I help today and how? And what you're using is the prefrontal cortex, the ACC, and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And what this does is this strengthens intentional reflection, accountability, and future focus for other people. It wires that neural pathway. Did I help somebody today? Without any quid pro quo, this for that. I'm not doing that. I'm paying it forward so they can pay it forward, knowing that universally I will get paid forward from some other person paying it forward. And that's how we were designed to actually help each other and coexist in this world. Next is group problem solving activities. And what you can do is going to be the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the ACC, and the mirror neuron system. And what this does is this build collaboration, shared leadership, and brain flexibility. And so that's why I say you are empowering the people in the communities in which you reside. That's your responsibility, so that you have this group that comes together and works together to empower each other, not to go from deflation to 70%, but from 70% to 100%. So you surround yourself with real leaders, people who want to use their 860 trillion synaptic connections. That's how you're going to empower each other. So think of everybody around you, and you have a power strip, and you're all going to plug into that power strip. And now everybody has the same amount of power to go off and do whatever it is that they want to do. If you think about the electricity in your home, right now I have my cell phone plugged up and my selfie light to a power strip. Two different functions, but I need both of them to be able to talk to you. So everything that you plug into your house, if it's a toaster, a blender, a mixer, a coffee maker, it has its own function, but it's using the power that's in the house. That's what empowering others in a group capacity does, is that you get to have access to all of these other things. I get to use a blender, a hair dryer, my cell phone, my computer, and we can come together as a household and have everything that we need. That's why you don't want clones and you don't want hero worshiping. So imagine if the refrigerator is like, well, I'm the most important thing in this house, so I'm gonna take all the power. And now, yeah, you got food, but everything you eat is either frozen or cold. What if the microwave says, I'm the one that's powerful and I'm going to take all the power? Now what? All your food is hot. So you either got to eat stuff lukewarm or cold, but it can't get to a point where it's like, okay, what if you need to bake something? I've never liked baked food from a microwave. So if you can understand that the power in groups is better, everybody taps into the power, and then everybody has their unique individual function that allows them to do the thing that they came here to do. And then finally, storytelling about overcoming struggles. I do this a lot, damn near every day. And what I'm using is my PSTS and my amygdala and my prefrontal cortex. And that's the posterior superior temporal sulcus. And what this does is it builds emotional bonds and shared belief in capability and growth. We had a client about 2 weeks ago who, when we worked with her the first time, the husband hired us and they were married. Then we worked with her. She was setting up her separation apartment. And so I shared my divorce story with her, and she was empowered because she was like, yeah, mine wasn't that bad at all. Okay, cool. I can do this. I can get through. I can get to the other side. Because if you got through all that and everybody's still alive, this is simple. So you want to share your stories because it will build an empowering system. Now, with a qualifier, don't be fucking trauma bonding. Well, if you think that's bad, let me tell you this. So there has to be a moral to the story and a high road to the story, not some low shit like you like, yeah, and I'm still, and my credit's still messed up. And I don't, I'll never love again. And I hate all men. No, ain't no trauma bonding. This happened. I celebrated for 5 years. I brought myself stuff for Father's Day and Mother's Day. And then I woke up one day and it didn't bother me anymore. And look at me now. I got on a brain t-shirt. So that is what you're doing. The goal is to tell people you can get to and through this. And I always say first you get the lesson and then you get the blessing. So where is the blessing coming from after this? Because this is a shit show, so it's got to be a pony in that pile of shit. Fertilizer is what makes things grow, right? It got to smell like shit for a minute. And then through that, there's all this growth that's taking place. And here's the bonus brain boosters. You can read biographies and empowering leaders. And I do that all the time. Right now, I'm watching Alexander the Great on Netflix, and whoo, was he great. Man, let me tell you. So read biographies, watch documentaries on people and empowering leaders. And what it does is this activates the prefrontal cortex and the mirror neuron system. So you see it, and now you can believe it, and then you can go off and achieve it. I sound like a poster from 1985 in the school English room. Okay. Use empowering confirmations aloud. I'm the baddest motherfucker walking the face of the planet Earth. That's my confirmation I say quite often. And what happens is it engages the left prefrontal cortex for language plus belief. I say it enough. I use Muhammad Ali. He said, I'm the greatest. And everybody said, man, Ali the greatest. He said it. And we believe it and we saw it. And then finally, you watch and analyze empowering speeches. And so what it does is it engages the temporal parietal junction, the prefrontal cortex, and your limbic systems. And that allows you to know that you can do it. Now, you can't just watch this shit and don't do shit. Faith without works is dead. You have to wire your brain. Okay, how did they do that? I'm always looking at the greats and saying, now, what did they do? And okay, who is it? Okay, now, how can I take that greatness and apply it to what I'm doing? What questions do you have about the brain-based activities before I come around third on the benefits of empowering others? And then we answer our two questions and get on out of here. If it's clear, clear as a bell. Regina, you are driving. If you're still on here, you do not have to respond because you're driving. I'm going to have to do the brain bit. Okay, cool. Benefits of empowering others. What's going to happen is you're going to have increased cognitive flexibility. So by empowering others, it boosts your adaptability and it allows you to be future oriented. Next, it enhances verbal expression and communication. And so because you are explaining and teaching and encouraging others, it strengthens your verbal fluency. Next is reward activation and empowerment. Acts of empowerment activate reward circuits, reinforcing behavior. So as you empower others, you get that nice little dopamine boost. That's what happens for you because you've empowered them and you're like, oh, they got it. Yes. And now there is this nice little transference of this neurotransmitter and everybody is like, yeah, this is good. I'm coming back. Then next you get greater prefrontal executive control. So it strengthens your ethical reasoning. It delays your gratification and it allows you to give wise guidance. So you don't become the self-absorbed asshole. Now you're actually paying it forward. Next, it reduces your self-centered bias. So it shifts attention from self to others and it increases your social awareness. And so I give people always talking about, I tithe my money. If you Baptist Christian, I tithe a tenth of my money. I tithe a tenth of my money. Tithing isn't always about money. It's a tenth of your talents, your skills, your resources. Don't just say, I gave my 10%. And now somebody at work asking you for some information. I can't tell you that. No, because if I tell you that, they're going to fire me. And I'm about to buy a new house. No, give it all away because you can get some more. If you figure out how to get that information, you can get some more information. So stop gatekeeping everything. Give it all away. And the problem is people don't give away information because they don't think they can get new information. So because the working memory is going to have to work harder every level. If you think about, I have a doctorate, what I learned in high school was not what I learned in my doctorate program. That shit was hard to sell. Qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method research data to get the information ain't easy. That damn calculus seems simple. After all, I was like, shit, this shit right here is the only B I got. Whew. Anyway, the point is, the more you keep learning and growing, grow continually is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. That's why it's nothing for me to tell people how to start their business. I was doing that, telling people how to do that in doggone 2015. 2015 through 2017, I was teaching business owners, whether they were startups, emerging, or existing businesses, how to create new sigmoid curves. So that's nothing for me to say, you need to do this, read the E-Myth Revisited, go here. Here's what I did. I have no problem doing that because I got a brain t-shirt on now. So here's all the information that you need. Next, what's going to happen is enhance verbal expression and communication. Explaining, teaching, or encouraging strengthens verbal fluency. And that's what's happening for me. There are terms that I'm still working on because of the orthographic processing center in my brain. But once I learn how to pronounce adenosine, it's there. It is there, and I know what it means. A year ago, I was not talking about the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know where it was. But I am here now learning it, and now I'm empowering you to learn the same things too. Well, when it comes to the brain. Next is improved perspective taking. And so it enhances your ability to understand others' viewpoints. And that is how you embrace diversity. And with that information, so I take in some information from someone else, and then I give them my perspective. They've empowered me with their perspective, and now I can empower them to do the same thing. And then the final one is stronger empathy and compassion. And what that does is that activates emotional reasoning and compassionate decision making. And so you have these decisions that you're making. And while I did not make a dime for the 2 years that I was there at the Urban Chamber, I made a difference, and that's better. I'm going to say that again. Although I did not make a dime for the 2 years that I was at the Urban Chamber, I made a difference. The Toastmaster Club that I started is still there. The person who everybody was ignoring when they walked in the door is running it. And there are other things that took place for businesses. People are doing business on the strip, at the hotels, and everything else because of the time that I spent there. People got healings in the Toastmaster meetings and went on to do great things, attack their fears, and went into district leadership and everything else because I went over there and said, I know don't nobody believe in y'all over here, but we about to make this the baddest motherfucking club in District 111. And I think it was 35, and then it was 111 because they switched at that time because it was big enough. They had enough clubs. And that is the case. They came over there within 2 years getting district leaders. We need this, because I told them, y'all gonna need district leadership. Come to lunchtime talkers, they ready. Grab them. That's where all the leaders are coming from. And it was true. So I was empowering them, and I said that to them, and it made a difference. What questions do you have about the benefits before I move to the brain bit and we come on around? Dang, that is really low. Can y'all hear that? That was pretty low. They must be landing at the hospital. It was scudding almost, I feel. Are we clear? You can hear it. Yeah, that was low. The helicopter's hovering. Okay. All right, so the brain fact for today is the importance of learning about how the brain functions. Because I have said this, I've been saying this, that it is important for you to learn how your brain functions. And so Chat and I had a chat, and here's what Chat gave me back. Brain fact. Learning, and I say brain bit just because of alliteration, but learning how your brain functions strengthens your prefrontal cortex. I'm going to say that again. Learning how your brain functions strengthens your prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, self-awareness, focus, emotional regulation, and goal setting. I'm going to say that again. So you learning how your brain functions strengthens your prefrontal cortex. And this part of the brain, this region of the brain, this lobe of the brain, is responsible for decision-making, daily decision-making because of working memory. Self-awareness, it's your personality, your default mode network, what you're about to do and what you're thinking in your downtime. Your focus. You can't focus, you got brain fog. It's because you're down here. You're supposed to be up here. Your emotional regulation. So the prefrontal cortex is telling the amygdala, I got it, sit down, be humble. That's not a saber-toothed tiger. That's a false positive. It's not a real threat. I got this. And then goal setting. So anytime you set a goal down here, you're not going to accomplish it and stuff going to go left. And then you're going to say, you find yourself saying, it's always something. It's always something. No, it's not. No, it's not always something. It is always something down here. But up here, that something can be resolved because of your ability to problem solve. Now, when you understand how different brain regions work, you can intentionally train and rewire them through neuroplasticity. When you understand how different brain regions work, you can intentionally train and rewire them through neuroplasticity, your brain's natural ability to change based on learning and experience. So when you learn how this works, and you use this to strengthen this, then you can use this to rewire all of this. That's why you have to understand and learn the functionality of your brain. Okay, why does this matter? The more you understand your brain, the more empowered you are to manage stress, boost your memory, break habits located in the basal ganglia, increase empowerment, and improve your communication and leadership skills. The more you understand your brain, the more empowered you are to manage stress, boost empowerment, break habits in that basal ganglia, boost memory, break habits, increase empowerment, and improve your communication and leadership skills. This self-knowledge turns your brain from a mystery into a powerful tool you can train for high performance. I'm going to say that sentence one more time. This self-knowledge turns your brain from a mystery, because you can't touch it and you can't see it, into a powerful tool you can train for high performance. That means be the best, set and maintain high standards, go above and beyond. When you learn how it functions, you're going to strengthen this, which is going to strengthen this, which is going to create neuroplasticity, which is going to wire your brain to what? Being a bad mofo too. What questions, and Jessica, you're typing, so what questions do you have about typing before I get to the last two questions for today? Is it going to load or not? That's why I had to get a different one. Okay. You keep typing. I'm going to just ask the last thing. So what did you learn today, and what did you learn about yourself? And I got an itchy nose today. Interesting that went past, and now my nose is itchy. Okay. What did you learn today, and what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn today? I learned that I was right when I said once you learn how your brain functions, you're going to be a bad mofo. Chat just confirmed it. I said, you right, Doc. You right. You're going to be a bad mofo. Yep. That's going to be a neuroscience term before long. No, it's not. I'm speaking into its existence. I'm empowering myself. How can you empower someone and not turn into them getting too prideful? I have tried to empower someone and they turned around and acted like they knew it. And you coming back with some more. Nola said, I learned about myself that telling people stories about your experiences is empowering. Yes, ma'am, it is. I got the power. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Getting kind of hectic. Getting kind of hectic. It wasn't helpful. Here's what I will say. Nothing that I'm saying works on unaccountable people. What I'm saying is for people who are actually focused on holding themselves personally accountable. I'm not interested in helping somebody that's not about to be a real leader. So what you did was help somebody who used you to get to their next level and then pushed you out the way and said thanks, but no thanks. So you can't help unaccountable people. You can't help them. That's not when I'm saying help others, I'm not talking about them. So that's why it didn't work. You help people who are holding themselves personally accountable because they actually are going to pay it forward. They are actually going to do the right thing. So you help someone who is being led by their amygdala instead of their prefrontal cortex. So they needed you. You helped them. They said, yep. And they went and flossed and flexed to the other people, to the other unaccountables. So you, for step one, is stop helping unaccountable people. Stop letting them use you. Oh, and thank you for this, because here's what I realized. And let me read Lola's first and then go to that thought. Lola said, I learned the more I learn about the brain, the more empowered I will be. Yes, ma'am, that is correct. So Linda said it at the beginning of the year that unaccountable people need a host. And now that we've been studying the brain for going on, we're in our 7th month this year, but 10 months for me overall, is that amygdalas need a host. And the reason why is because it's down here. And its job is only to alert you. Here's how I'm feeling, here's what's happening, and that's it. But the amygdala needs a host. And so what happened for you, Jessica, is that, and they don't follow through. So what happens is, losers, that's why there's always an unaccountable person coming on my live, because they need a host. They need an external stimuli to get their dopamine boost. I'm not trolling over in Loserville. I'm not rolling past, yeah, bitch. Not doing that. I'm over here minding my business. I just mind my business. That TikTok sound for like 2 years ago. They need a host. We don't need a host over here. We solo dolo. We like John Wick, Superman. People that just Wonder Woman. We roll by ourselves and got enough power that when we wreck some shit on our own, do something completely on our own, because we're using 860 trillion synaptic connections in our brain, and they use about 7. That's the problem. So what happens is everybody over there has hijacked amygdala, and then they come over here because they need a prefrontal cortex. Because what's supposed to happen is the amygdala alerts the prefrontal cortex, and then the prefrontal cortex says, "I got you. Go back to sleep." But theirs is taking over everything. So they came and brought their amygdala to your prefrontal cortex. You did everything for them. So they didn't wire their brain. They didn't use their working memory or anything in here. So when you did the work, they didn't have the sweat equity. So that's why they just went back. That's why they didn't follow up and follow through, because they were not actually creating synaptic connections to the rest of their brain. They hosted on, think of a barnacle on a ship, or a leech, or a tick. They just sat there on your prefrontal cortex, let you do all the work. They got the result that they needed from you, and they left. And that's why you don't host them. What I do over here is I say, your amygdala is hijacked. You need to weaken this motherfucker and strengthen this one. That creates cognitive overload. Nobody don't want to have cognitive overload, but that's the only way that this becomes weak and this becomes strong. So let's say you got you used to be fit. That's up here. Now you're not fit. You got a fupa and a booty do and all of that and flabby arms and everything. When you take your ass back to the gym, you're going to pick up a weight and your arm going to be like, hold up, what you doing? So you got 2 choices. Go to the gym and get real muscles, or go to the doctor and get lipo. And if you go get lipo, you're going to look snatched for a minute, but you missed out on all the strengthening of all the rest of the brain regions. So that is what's happening to losers. And that is why don't be their liposuction. You want to learn how to do this shit, you got it. It's sweat equity over here. I'm not doing it for you anymore. And I had to learn that in these last 12 years. And that's what I was doing when I was advising business owners. I was running the damn show because I knew how to do it. But that's not what you do. So if somebody wants some information, you give them the list and say, go execute that. And if they say, but I need some help, you know what you need is cognitive overload to strengthen your prefrontal cortex. That's what you actually need. Okay, Lola said, let me go ahead and make that a highlight, because losers like coming to steal my shit. And y'all think I'm paranoid, but they actually are. Somebody has purchased this shirt, my white shirt, in a different color, and was literally telling people to drink water because it's 75%, your brain is 75%. They did this about 12 days ago. Wonder where they got that information from. Okay. Lola said, learning the brain helps me learn differences between can versus can't. That's correct. And can makes the impossible possible is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And then Nola, my pleasure. And then Nola, and speaking of when you gonna start doing your stuff, ma'am? When are you signing up for your 30-day challenge? While you here? Since you drove past this morning. And then Nola, did you say what you learned overall? Because I just have what you learned about yourself. Telling people stories about your experiences is empowering. I didn't see the other one. I sent both. I can hear it, no questions. I learned about myself. Telling people stories about your experience is empowering, and that's it. And then I have the two Lolas and the two Jessicas. I didn't see it. If you try to send it one more time, if it doesn't work, just tell it to me in person so I'll know. Because it could be just not letting you send it. And Lola had that same experience. I don't know why. I mean, hell, I can't even reverse it so y'all can see the graphic. I mean, YouTube has improved in some aspects, and in other aspects it haven't. I learned about how to empower the accountable and not to give time to the people who weren't accountable. So see, right now, this is why you need to go ahead and take your challenge. And I get that, but it's personally accountable and personally unaccountable, because you're saying aren't accountable. So the language isn't there. And if your brain is not wired for personal accountability, you are going to find yourself in a hijacked amygdala situation, because you will not have the neuroplasticity to keep yourself out of that, and you will not be accessing your best. I cannot see it. That's okay, Nola. I don't know why I can see. Can you see it? But I can't see what you said, and it's not even sending me an alert to tell me that you said something that I need to review. It's okay. We can go ahead and get out of here because we all have things to do this morning. So pat yourself on the back, empower yourself to go empower others that actually are being personally accountable to get to their best, because that is the objective. We have a lot of things missing in society because people are not empowering others to go off and do unconventional things. And then we have too many other people doing a bunch of shit that they shouldn't be doing. You're trying to figure out how to get out of the comfort zone. I'm telling you what to do. The turnarounddoctor.com is the website. Personal accountability challenge. You're not going to be able to figure none of this shit out. You don't have the mental bandwidth or the neuroplasticity to get it done. That's the reality of the situation, is that you don't know how to do it. So you're trying to do it in your own brain with your own neural pathways. You're trying to rewire your brain yourself. I'm the only person teaching people how to use their brain as it was designed to be functioning, so that it can actually, that's what the brain fact just said. So you can actually learn how to use your prefrontal cortex to do the things that it was designed to do. No one else is telling you how to stop using your amygdala to run your brain. How do I know that? Because of my own research. had to discover it. They too busy telling you it's quick. It's quick. I had that conversation with Nola yesterday. I said people are making it seem like when they're teaching you, all you have to do. I'm like, we found 9 regions of the brain yesterday just to look people in the eye when you're talking. So it's a very complex situation. That's what's actually taking place. Okay. Oh, and then the other thing is that Regina corrected me, or told me that my number was incorrect on the amount of adults in the world. At some point, I researched how many people were in the world, and the number that was revealed to me was 6.8 billion adults. That number is incorrect. The actual correct number, now that I'm using chat, is this. There are 5.9 billion adults in the world over the age of 18. That's where the 6 billion is coming from. There is another 300 million that are 15 and above. So in certain countries, 15 and above, because you can work in those countries, is considered an adult. You can't work with me unless you're 18 years old. So my number is 5.9 billion, round up to 6 billion. So flat 6 billion, it is not 6.8 billion. That number is incorrect. There are 8.2 billion people in the world. So if you hear me switching back to 6 billion, it is because of the number that is actually correct. So my everything going forward will be 6 billion. Okay. I have not given up, and I wanted to, and I get more accountability. Yes, ma'am. And I'm going to say it again. You will never be at your best until you start holding yourself personally accountable and you do 30-day challenges. That's what I will say. You can say this, and I understand what you're saying, and you're comparing it to whatever it was that you were doing it before, but you will not get extraordinary just doing what you're doing. Being sporadically attending and all of that. It feels different, and you get a nice little dopamine hit here and there, but you are not actually rewiring neural pathways or wiring the pathways of your brain. And that's the reality of the situation. That's what's actually taking place. Okay. All right, so thank yourselves for attending, and know that higher power, God in the universe, if they are willing, I will be back here tomorrow, same time, and see you just. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths, ladies and gentlemen. You have just said, I appreciate you keeping me motivated. And if you were in a 30-day PA challenge, you would have motivation as one of the days that you actually have to listen to the PA for today for motivation. And so I will say this as calmly as I possibly can. I don't motivate anybody to do anything. The motivation industry, the speaking industry, is like $1.2 billion, and it's a $10 billion racket. It is like a drug. And so it is there for you to come back and need it again and again. So empower others, which is what we were talking about today, is different because it gives you what you need consistently for you to go off and empower others. So I don't motivate anybody. That is never my intention to do that, because it's like showering, and that means you have to do it again and again. And so you said, I keep motivating you. That's not my objective. My objective is to teach you how to use your brain so that you can become one of the baddest mofos walking the planet too. And motivation is not a factor in real leader math. And that's why I'm saying your sporadic attendance and you not signing up for a 30-day PA challenge shows that you're not grasping this in the way that it was meant to be taught and used on a daily basis. Okay, I know you weren't trying to offend me. That's why I'm being as calm as I possibly can. And I'm more saying that your sporadic attendance and your inability to do what I'm saying do is why you are stuck where you are. And it makes you think that you're doing the work. But if anybody else would like to chime in, Virginia, you're driving, Lola, you want to participate, or Nola, in saying this, because sometimes you can't hear it from me because I'm me. But I am saying you are not actually doing the work to hold yourself personally accountable neurologically day in and day out. While you may be taking what I'm saying and somewhat applying it to improve, it is not extraordinary, and it will never be extraordinary until you actually do the work day in and day out. It's like going to the gym once a week and doing a Zumba class and sweating and saying, woo, I feel good. Look at all these endorphins. And come back, ooh, I feel good. Skipping 2 weeks, come back, ooh, I feel good. Right. And so I'm saying, do the work. Put up or shut up is what we say back in the day. Either you're going to be all in or you're going to be all out. But this lukewarm, double-minded, double Dutch, jumping in and jumping out isn't working for you. It is not working for you at all. So what you need to do in your default mode network time today, you got to ask yourself, is this actually for you? And if it is, well, you can't. All you can do is jump over the hurdle. I used to have to jump over a hurdle when I was long jumping to get to the pit. My foot would get caught in a hurdle and everything else. And I'm not trying to convince you. I'm saying you can stay in your amygdala and vacillate back and forth, or you can piss or get off the pot. Noah said, I have changed a lot. I have been in 2 365-day challenges, about to finish a third. And simply because she is my child, she does not get a pass at no point. I probably harder on her than anybody else because she is my offspring. So all I'm telling you is you need to decide today whether you're going to do this or not. But these drive-bys and this sporadic jumping in and telling me I'm helping you, I don't want to hear that shit. That ain't true. Because if I was, you would be doing the work. So it might sound good to you, and you might be thinking that you can say that to me, and I think that, but I don't believe you. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying do the work or don't. Stay or go. I'm cool either way, because you're not doing this work for me. You're doing it for you. I already did the work and am continuing. I'm studying neuroscience right now, and I have 3 degrees. So I'm continually creating and blazing new trails that are not here. So this is not for me. You're not going to give me an ego boost. I'm not going to be like, yes, and I got another student. Now what? That's not what's happening. This is one thought. This is some selfless ass work I do on a daily basis, and it's for you. So either you're going to do it or you're not. But this, I'm trying. Yoda said, do, don't try. So you either going to do this or you're not. It's really just that simple. That's how that goes. All right. I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, safe space. If you are holding yourself personally accountable, if you're not, you're going to get blocked. I'm going to be back with a different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a brain-tastic day. Take care. Adios.